OnePlus has had a fantastic 2023 thus far. We got the OnePlus 11, OnePlus 11R, OnePlus Nord 3, and now this, the OnePlus Nord Ce3. This is OnePlus's offering under Rs 30,000. It has almost all the good features of the Nord 3, but the performance chops. So wait a minute, the Nord 3 and the Nord Ce3 are basically the same phones with different SoCs. Anyway, is the Nord 3 any good? Does it hold up against the competition? Let's find out. If you're here for the very first time, I'm Ershad, you're watching Trakin English, your destination for detailed, incisive gadget reviews. Now, design-wise, both these phones look very similar, and that's especially because of these two massive camera rings on the rear. Now, the variant that we got, it's called Aqua Surge. It's this very intense shade of blue, and it's not really my scene, it's a little too intense for me. The moment I took it out of the box, my first feeling was hide it within a case. Now, if I were to buy the Nord Ce3, I'd probably pick the grey variant because that's more subtle and that's more up my alley. By the way, the Nord Ce3 doesn't have an alert slider, but there's one interesting addition, and that's a memory card slot. For the first time in a long time, I'm seeing a memory card slot with a OnePlus phone. Now OnePlus, if you guys actually went the length and gave us a memory card slot, a headphone jack would have been a nice addition too. By the way, like most OnePlus phones in 2023, including the Nord 3, you do get an infrared blaster as well. Now one thing to note is that this phone is made entirely of plastic, and it does register some smudge marks, but they're not really immediately apparent. But since it's made of plastic, it weighs about 185 grams, and for a big phone, that makes it really comfortable to hold and use in everyday usage. And there's IP54 rating for what it's worth. So overall, with respect to the design, if you've seen the Nord 3, you've also seen the Nord Ce3. It's a very familiar design, and it's a good design. Now the display on the front is a large 6.7-inch 120Hz AMOLED panel, and the refresh rate can actually switch between 60, 90 and 120 depending on the content that's playing on the screen. Apart from that, you also get a touch response rate of 240Hz, and the peak brightness is 950 nits. Of course, the display is bright enough, and you take it outdoors, it's very legible too under direct sunlight as well, so that's not really a concern. Also, interestingly, the Nord Ce3 has a high PWM dimming of 2160Hz. So if you're sensitive to screen flickering in low light on a high refresh rate display, that won't be a problem on the Nord Ce3. Very good job, OnePlus. Moreover, the bezels are fairly slim around the display, and the punch hole is tiny as well, so you do get a fair amount of screen estate. By the way, as far as HDR playback is concerned, you get HDR support on YouTube, but you do not get it on Netflix, and I doubt that Netflix HDR support is coming anytime soon. I did check out the HDR playback on YouTube, and it has been tuned really well. The highlights are well controlled, and the shadows have enough details too. In fact, the entire display has been tuned well enough for colors. If you want a fairly decent Delta E, switch to the natural softer color mode. But one thing I was solely missing was the professional mode setting with DisplayP3 support within that setting, which is available on almost every other OnePlus phone, including the OnePlus Nord 3, OnePlus 11 and the OnePlus 11R, but it's not there on the Nord Ce3. Of course, a part of the display is also the in-display fingerprint scanner. It's really fast to unlock the phone, absolutely no concerns there. And OnePlus Nord Ce3 also has O-haptics. The X-axis vibration motor has been tuned really well. You get really good vibration feedback. You can change the intensity levels as well. Good job. Now, to round out the multimedia experience, you also get stereo speakers with Dolby Atmos support. But I did test the sound quality right next to the Nord 3, and what I noticed is that the Nord 3 stereo speaker setup is slightly richer and more detailed. Take a listen for yourself and let me know what you guys think. Alright, let's move on to performance. This is the first phone that I've tested with the Snapdragon 782G, which is like a slight tweak of the 778G Plus. Apart from that, you also can buy two variants of the Nord Ce3, 8128 and 12256. And when you're talking about the RAM, it's LPDDR4X, and storage is actually UFS 3.1, which is fantastic. So you can expect great read-write scores of 2000 Mbps and about 1500 Mbps. Now, I ran a regular suite of benchmarks, and in AnTuTu version 9, we got a score of over 610,000. But when you compare the scores with other processors in this same price category, the 782G is of course more powerful than the 778G, Dimensity 1050 and the Dimensity 7050 as well. But the AnTuTu score is lower than the Dimensity 7200, 8020 and the 8050. And if you're looking at the Geekbench scores, they are pretty decent too. You do get a single core score of over 1000 points. However, I noticed something mind-blowing in our throttling tests. So I ran a regular 40-thread, 30-minute test on CPU throttling test, and we got no throttling detected. This is the first time that's ever happened, and it's just crazy. That's not it. Even the GPU doesn't throttle on the OnePlus Nord Ce3. In our 3D Mark wireless test, we got a GPU stability of 99.4%, and the peak temperature that it reached was just 33 degrees. It seems like that large vapor cooling chamber inside the Nord Ce3 is coming in really handy and helping the phone run cool and not throttle too much either. In fact, this phone would be perfect for, marathon gamers, even if you're playing Call of Duty Mobile at very high graphics and max frame rates, which of course is what is possible on the Nord Ce3 for really long sessions of about 4 hours, 5 hours, then even then it shouldn't heat up or throttle too much. I know 4-5 hours might be a bit of a stretch, but you get my drift. Alright, battery wise, you get a 5000 mAh battery inside. With this kind of performance, you can easily expect more than a day's worth of usage on a single charge. And it goes without saying that you also get support for 80 watt super VOOC charging technology. It can charge the phone from 0 to 100 in 32 minutes flat. OnePlus doesn't skimp out on charging speeds at all. As for network and radio connectivity, you get support for Wi-Fi 6, Bluetooth 5.2, there's support for NFC as well, and you also get support for 8 5G bands, including the most important N77 and N78 bands. So the phone is running on OxygenOS 13.1 based on Android 13, the same software that was there with the OnePlus Nord 3. And there's absolutely no bloatware whatsoever. It's a very premium, clean install. But yes, there is Oppo's theme store and internet, so keep that in mind. And what I've noticed on Twitter is that a lot of people are talking about how when you're searching the app drawer, you're getting recommendations, but that happens on even inside the App Store on iOS or Google's Play Store as well. I don't see that as too much of a concern unless it starts recommending some really obnoxious apps. And in this price category, if you look at it, OxygenOS is definitely far more cleaner and more premium feeling than Realme UI or MIUI. As far as updates go, OnePlus has promised 2 years of software updates and 3 years of security updates. Finally, let's talk about the cameras. And yes, just like the OnePlus 11, the OnePlus 11R, and the OnePlus Nord 3, the Nord Ce3 also has the same primary sensor, and that is the Sony IMX890. But there's no OIS. The secondary camera is an 8 megapixel ultrawide, the tertiary is a 2 MP macro, and on the front you get a 16 MP selfie camera. I actually did compare the cameras against the OnePlus Nord 3. Let's take a look at how these two perform. Now the one thing I can say for sure is both the Ce3 and the Nord 3 offer equal amounts of details in the finer texture when you look at the 100% crop of the primary camera samples. And yes, OnePlus's algorithm does tend to over sharpen slightly. Color-wise, both are not very accurate, but since the Ce3 always tends to go for a brighter exposure, the colors go for an absolute toss. It just captures the wrong colors all the time. OnePlus Nord 3's slightly more contrasty image is definitely more pleasing to the eyes. HDR performance on the more powerful ISP of the Dimensity 9000 Plus inside the Nord 3 is definitely better. You get more details from the shadows, which is something that you can see for sure. So if you look at it, and if you've seen our previous videos, you can progressively see how the IMX890 performs on something like the OnePlus 11, then the OnePlus 11R, the Nord 3 and the Nord Ce3. It gets progressively worse in terms of multi-stack processing is what I'm saying. Now moving on, in this picture of Vishal, the skin tone is at least somewhat close to accurate on the Nord 3, where the Ce3 has made it slightly yellow. Plus the whole exposure control on the face is off. Portraits as far as edge detection and depth mapping goes have been improved on OnePlus and both look very good. In fact, I like the Nord 3 skin rendition here and the overall color capture as well. So if you look at it, if you shoot your friends and family with the regular camera without using a portrait mode, and then when you use a portrait mode, it's just so different in terms of processing on both these phones that it gets very erratic. But one thing that's not erratic is the low light performance, where Nord 3 takes the lead easily. Thanks in part to optical image stabilization, you get more details. And apart from that, Nord 3 also pulls in more light to make the scenes brighter than the Nord Ce3. Even otherwise, the low light performance of the Nord Ce3, whether I'm comparing it to a more expensive Nord 3 or not, is not that great, because I have a feeling that the low light performance will not match up to that of the Redmi Note 12 Pro Plus or something like the Realme 11 Pro Plus. Now the secondary ultra-wide angle camera is also not as well tuned as the Nord 3's. Nord 3 offers sharper textures, better HDR and better low light performance too. More importantly, the color sense consistency is not as bad as the Nord Ce3, which is just very bad. Finally, the 2 MP macro camera on the rear takes these kind of pictures that are mostly useless for me. Until now, the Nord 3 has had a bit of an edge in terms of camera performance, but in selfies, it takes a bit of a complete U-turn. The Nord Ce3 seems to be the better one of the two when we were taking selfies. You get better skin tones than the Nord 3, whether you're shooting in good lighting or against the light. I was really surprised. Even the portrait mode selfies look better than the Nord 3. But then again, when it comes to low light selfies, the Nord 3 just pulls out its aces and makes better looking nightscape shots. Clearly, the low light performance is better across the board on the Nord 3 compared to the Nord Ce3, and this is something that was expected. Now, as far as video recording goes, the Nord 3 can shoot up to 4K 60 60 FPS. But even at 4K 30 FPS on both the phones, you do not get electronic image stabilization, so the footage looks unstable. And if you look at it, the Nord Ce3 matches up in terms of bitrate, details and sound quality. In fact, I even like the proper color science of the Nord Ce3 footage compared to the overall warm footage of the Nord 3.
Both are using its primary camera to shoot this video.
Now, if you shoot ultra stable video, the resolution drops to 1080p 60 FPS. Here, the Nord 3 definitely performs better. Ultra wide angle video quality is possible at 1080p 30 FPS on both, but it is slightly of higher resolution and quality on the Nord 3. The Nord Ce3's ultra wide angle camera seems to be really bad at pictures and video as well. Selfie video at 1080p 30 FPS on the other hand is better looking on the Nord Ce3, similar to what we noticed with the picture quality. Now, after using the Nord Ce3, it felt like a very nice overall package, one that I can easily recommend to a lot of folks. I mean, the first thing that somebody would say is that it doesn't have a premium material like glass or vegan leather in the construction, it uses plastic. But then you do get IP54 rating and that memory card slot, which is not available on a lot of phones in this price class. Plus, the 782G seems to be a very solid performer. It's definitely better than the Dimensity 1080 inside the Realme 11 Pro Plus and the Redmi Note 12 Pro Plus. Also, you get a proper 5000 mAh battery, 80 watt SuperVOOC charging, a really premium software experience too. Yes, the camera experience, especially with the primary camera and the low light performance, left me wanting for more, but still, this is a good package overall. If the best camera experience is not what you're after and a good selfie performance will suffice, then for about 27,000, the Nord Ce3 would be my recommendation for you. In fact, compared to using the Redmi Note 12 series or the Realme 11 series, I had more of a premium, nice experience on the Nord Ce3. I don't know how to quantify it, but it just feels good. It's that typical OnePlus experience that you get. So yeah, would you pick the Nord Ce3 or not? Let me know in the comment section below. And I hope this video was helpful. If it was, of course, give us a thumbs up and maybe even support us by subscribing to the channel. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Until then, keep tracking and stay safe.